Hey there blues fans, John here with the Blues Guitar Institute, and this is your Tuesday Blues lesson number 151. Today we're going to talk about the difference between straight time and the shuffle rhythm. I think you're going to get a lot out of this, so stay tuned. Today we're going to get back to basics. We're going to start building ourselves toward the shuffle rhythm, and we're going to do that by walking you through some basic rhythm theory concepts. And I think it'll really help you once you get all the way through to the end of this video and see how the shuffle comes about. That will really help it stick in your mind, the pulse and the groove of this that is used so heavily in blues. Knowing the why behind the rhythm will really just help your brain sort of fall into the groove and hopefully get your hands to fall in place as well. So to get started, we're going to talk about the basic building blocks of rhythm, and that really is a note. And when we start talking about a note, we really look to its duration. So how long or how short that we're playing this particular note defines its rhythm, its rhythmic characteristics. And of course, you start stringing different notes together, varying the length and the duration, and even, the pitch, then all of a sudden you've got a nice little bit of music starting to happen. Today, we're going to focus just on the rhythm part, so just the duration. And if you take a measure and you count out for a measure, if we were to say strum an E major chord and just count to 4, 2, 3, 4, nice and even so that the numbers are evenly spaced in time, then we've got a measure. And this is a whole note, and this whole note gets a 4 count. And that happens in 4/4 time. We'll talk about that later, but for right now, just know that in the context of what we're talking about, and in a lot of blues, we're playing in 4/4 time. So this whole note gets 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we want to take this, and instead of playing just this whole note, we can fit 2 different notes in that same measure. And if we do it evenly, we'll have 2 half notes, and you would play it like this. 2, 3, 4. So that each of these 2 beats are played for the same exact amount of musical time. And then, of course, we can take this one step further, something that you may already be familiar with, and that is the first exercise that we're going to get to today, and that's playing on the quarter notes. So now if we take those half notes and multiply by 2, we've got 4 beats in the measure. And it's really just playing every time we count, every time we say a number in this bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4. What we're going to do for the little exercise that we've got here, this is very basic, but we really want to get the basics just rooted in our soul as blues musicians. So what we're going to do is we're going to reach for the metronome, fire it up to 80 beats per minute, and we're just going to play right along with the quarter notes. So this thing's going to click off 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just going to be beeps, not any counting, but what we want to do is play right on top of those beats. So we'll play through this for a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hear how we did this strum every single click. Every time that click happened, we were doing a downstroke. And I'm wearing a thumb pick on this particular lesson, but it really doesn't matter. You can strum through the same rhythm with your thumb and no pick, or with a flat pick. Whatever really feels comfortable to you. The point of this is to get your timing tuned up here and not worry so much about what pick or what you're doing. So just grab the guitar and go with whatever picking technique is natural to you, and focus on landing the strum right on top of those quarter note clicks. So the next thing that you'll want to do, once you've got a good foundation in quarter notes and playing on that beat, is we want to play in between the beat a little bit. And if we do that, if we take a bar in 4/4 time, and we've got those quarter note clicks happening on the metronome. If we were to divide that in two and give us twice as many notes to play with there, we would end up going from quarter notes to eighth notes. So we'll have 2 eighth notes in the space of what was 1 quarter note. And to me, it really helps to hear the counting. If we're counting quarter notes, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. If we're counting eighth notes, you'll go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Notice that the and in there, that's where it's kind of in between the beats. And what happens is that is exactly in the middle of the 2 beats. So the space on the front end and the back end of that and is identical. And that gives this the nice straight time, these eighth notes. 1, 2. Let's hear what that sounds like with the metronome. Again, 80 beats per minute. The clicks are still going to happen as the quarter notes. What we're going to do is fit in the eighth notes. And I'm just going to do that with a light upstroke. So we should have down on the numbers and up in between. 1 and 2 and so on. So here we go. 80 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that, again, is straight time. There's a rigidity to that. There's this even spacing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and everything is just really like spot on with the timing. Again, the space in between the notes when you play that and is exactly identical on the front end of the and the back end of the and. So the next thing that we can do, things get pretty interesting here. So what we did before is we fit 2 notes where a quarter note was, and we got eighth notes. Now what we want to do is take that and fit 3 notes where an eighth note or where a quarter note is. And that's going to give us eighth note triplets. So we're taking what's the 2 note eighth notes and putting in 3 beats in that same exact spot of musical time. And the thing is, we can, without changing the tempo or anything, we can now give each beat 3 beats. And this is called triplets. Triplets are used heavily in the blues. So this is a rhythm that you really want to get familiar with. And the way that I count triplets, and you'll hear maybe a couple different variations, but this one makes sense to me, is I'll count a bar of triplets like this. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Just kind of reinforces the idea. You've got the word triplet in there, and you don't lose track of the number 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're all said there. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So you can tell you've got 1 triplet. That's 3. The number, the trip, and the let. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And so if you want to do that on the guitar, what we're going to do now, we're going to move more into just doing the 2 bass strings here. Things will get kind of busy if you're going to strum out the triplet. But you can. You can do this with anything. Again, we're just using this E chord or even just these 2 bass strings to illustrate what we're doing here. But the rhythmic concepts can be applied to anything that you do on the fretboard. So with that in mind, we're going to test that theory by firing up the metronome once more in 80 beats per minute, and we're going to do triplets. So we're going to do 1 triplet. Every single time this thing clicks off, we're going to do 3 notes in its place. As you can tell, things are starting to get a little bit busy. And if 80 beats per minute doesn't work for you to practice this triplet rhythm, then slow it down. But I think it's really important to really see the concept here that we have not changed the tempo whatsoever. We're just changing how we're dividing up that space in musical time. So a quick recap before we put the shuffle out there for us is we started out by talking about a whole note, and that whole note is 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then half notes are 1, 2, 3, 4, so they last for 2 beats per measure. Then we've got the quarter note, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4 per measure, where you're playing on the beat. You got the 1, 2, 3, 4, and you play every single time. And then we've got the eighth notes, where we kind of double up and we're playing twice as many notes, or 8 notes per bar, and we would count that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and like that. And then of course we just covered the triplets, where we can fit 3 notes into each quarter note space in time, and we would end up with 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And so now we're finally to the cool part for a blues musician, and that is, okay, all this is great, and I knew some of it, maybe this is helping you bring some concepts to the front of your mind, even if you thought you knew some of this stuff, right? It's really good to grab the tab on this, grab a metronome, and just practice and really work through this stuff. But now, what does that mean for you as a blues player? Well, the cool thing is that the shuffle is just one little tweak from that triplet rhythm away, and we're right there. The thing is, what we're going to do is we're actually going to leave out a key beat, and doing that will create an entirely different sound. So I'm going to mix up a measure here, playing the 8th note triplets and then shifting into the shuffle. And I think when I do that, you'll really get a sense of how how this is different and how we're getting there. Remember, we're still very rigid, even with the triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. But watch what happens when I leave out one of the beats. 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's really coming from that triplet rhythm. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 1. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1, 2, let 3, let 4, let 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 3 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So what's happening is, for the shuffle, I'm not playing the trip. I'm not playing that middle triplet division. We're just playing on each beat, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And when you put that in accurate musical time, what you get is something like this. And what's happening there is you went from this real rigid time to, and again, we're just playing with the space here. This is still the same amount of musical time, but what we're doing now is, by leaving that out, we've created that nice little shuffle pattern, and it creates, to me, a real sort of flat tire, a loping kind of sound, and it is extremely useful in the blues. So let's fire up the metronome, and we'll play this thing through a couple rounds at 80 beats per minute. So you can hear this shuffle in action. 2, 3, 4. To the triplets. Leaving it out. I think it's really important that you go through this lesson and you build toward that, because it may not have hit you before now that you can pick up the guitar and do this, that basic shuffle. But I believe that the more you know about it, and the more you know about what's going on the fretboard and what your picking hand is doing, the better that you'll become at actually translating that knowledge to the guitar. And to me, it's like an aha moment when you figure out that triplets are really a crucial part of that blues rhythm. It's kind of the backdrop of that blues shuffle. And triplets show up in a lot of different places in blues. This is probably just the most prevalent example. And it's kind of neat to me that we're taking away some of the triplet to get this shuffle. So if you really want to work on your groove and work on just absolutely nailing your timing on this shuffle rhythm pattern, then I highly suggest doing what we just did and playing through with that straight time, like the triplets, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, and then moving into the shuffle, 1, 2, 3, at the same tempo. It's really going to give you a command of the notes, the beats to actually use in this musical time. So I hope that you really found this useful and that you'll take this to heart and work through these exercises. When I was younger, when I was starting out, I used to gloss over this kind of stuff. I thought it was boring. I thought, you know what, I got the groove. I can do this. I can hang. I can play with the drummer and it sounds good. And the thing is that until you record yourself or you start to, get some audio feedback, maybe you're listening to a practice session or something that you've recorded, you start to go, something's not quite right. And you blame the drummer. You definitely blame the drummer, but it's not always the drummer's fault, okay? So what you want to do is develop really good timing in all that you do. And this sort of approach to it will help you in that endeavor. And today specifically, we learned what the difference between straight time and the shuffle rhythm is all about. And I want you to practice this, and I want you to really work hard on it, and then you'll get some great results in your rhythm playing. If you want to work on more fundamentals of the blues, then I invite you to check out BGI's course called the Acoustic Blues Jumpstart. It's a great way to really take these concepts and others and put them together in a nice 12-bar package to get you well on your way to playing some great blues. You can check out the first 3 lessons of the Acoustic Blues Jumpstart completely free by going to bluesguitarinstitute.com/start now. So I hope you check that out, and I hope to see you inside BGI. And until then, practice smart and play on.